Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is me, Monkalesi. Thank you for looking at my station one more time. So today I wanted to go ahead and talk about an immortal group called the Titans. And basically, this is a very interesting or very important immortal group to understand because they were connected to Kemet or ancient Egypt. And basically what you guys need to understand about them, or the reason why this information is coming about, is because they're going to be one of the first immortal groups that's going to come and make contact and occupy the space with us once quarantine's over. And therefore, a lot of the Kemet energies and the currents that are originally turned off will be activated again. And this is a very important information to understand. So to give you guys a little bit of history, what basically happened was back in the 4th dynasty, you had a pharaoh by the name of Dozier, who was occupying. And Dozier, in reality, was actually the incarnation of Tahuti. Now, if you guys haven't seen my video, I made a video about an immortals named Tahuti, who he's well known for his wives with Sishat, Hathor, and Ma'at. And so he was actually the pharaoh, and when he was a pharaoh in the 4th dynasty, a lot of immortals was ruling. So at that time, what happened was, what people don't realize or should understand, is that Kemet or ancient Egypt was very multidimensional. So although they had a society and teachings going on this dimension here, they also had a lot of them would go ahead and occupy a dimension that was a little bit above us on the tree of life, just a little bit above. So what you had is you had immortals simultaneously living on a dimension above while occupying the space. So it's very multidimensional in their spirituality and their practice. What would happen was this immortal society, which was, because what happened was you had immortals ruling Kemet, but you also had immortal society, which was called the Tetians. And the Tetians basically every year, once a year, they would take a batch of the finest young men from Kemet and go ahead and have them initiated into the society. So every year they would take a batch and then they would simultaneously live. So in this upper dimension of Kemet, where the best of immortals would go, they had the same bloodline as us, however they occupied a different space. And therefore, a lot of the spiritual practices, a lot of the ancient art, a lot of the culture and spirit still existed in it. But what happened was, after the times were going by, or the dynasty was going by, Kemet on our dimension started to be, or our lifestyles, it became more denser and the energy became more materialistic and heavier. So what happened is it would take a lesser bunch of people per year to go into this immortal city called Titans. And that happened until basically up until the 10th dynasty, because at that point they weren't really taking us because we became more too dense, and they weren't really taking people into this immortal state. So what you have then is you have people on Kemet on this dimension basically becoming more solid. Or more materialistic, and then you have the immortal city still keeping the science and keep evolving and going on with their thing until the connection was basically lost, and therefore we were separated. But although they were separated, the Tetians still kept in contact with the brothers and sisters in Sirius and Orion. But they kept going on with their science. And they also kept in contact with Kemet through the priests who would come down here. So right now you have them, until this day, they still practice a lot of that Kemet science. They still do a lot of the art that we know from ancient Egypt. However, and it never stopped. And because of this, they're very powerful and very advanced in their spirit and their wisdom. So something you can compare it to is when you think of aliens, that we usually think of like the Anunnakis, or a lot of the aliens are being channeled to this dimension. They're a lot more powerful and advanced than that. And although there's other immortal societies like the Mayans and stuff like that, they're definitely a lot more advanced when it comes to their spirituality and whatnot. And they also have their own elders. And their elders are so advanced that they are able to turn themselves into Merkabahs and therefore transcend all the different levels of tree of life. And what's happening is, a lot of times people don't realize, is now the quarantine is about to be over and they're about to come through and occupy the same space that we live. And because what this also signify is that the current of Kemet in ancient Egypt is now being reactivated and turned on. So a lot of the science that they did in the past is now coming back to the planet, and the energy is returning. And so therefore, understand this information, understanding that they're coming back into our dimensions and making contact is a good way to let people know that this energy is being reactivated, and therefore they're going to make an appearance and therefore reactivate Egypt again. So that's my quick introduction to them. They're basically a very advanced immortal society that came from the 4th dynasty of Egypt. They would take people from the bloodlines up until the 10th dynasty. They kept in contact with the priests, who were very powerful, that when the priest would pass on, they would basically maintain or keep their consciousness. Their elders are able to turn themselves to the Macabre and transcend many parts of the tree of life at will. They would keep in contact with the priests. The currents in Egypt were turned off for a while, and now with them returning, basically it also signifies that they are turning back the currents like ancient Egypt and Kemet, and therefore they're going back and they're coming back to us and want to basically activate something or continue where things have left off. So if you can imagine Kemet never turning off their powers and now returning. Also, the important thing to do is understand this information. Basically, I did one about the Anunnakis with the architects or New Avalon. Realize that there's a lot of multidimensional immortals or humans who are like us, who are in different dimensions. However, they live side by side from us, but they kind of came from us, so they have the same bloodline. So this is my quick videos. I hope you guys like it, and I'll see you in my next.